start, so.
Are you recording?
Already recording. You just caught everything I said the last 10 minutes. None of it's true, I want to say.
For the record.
This morning we're going to talk about something that is extremely important. Excuse me. It's extremely important. A lot of people don't like to discuss it. But unfortunately, it changes people's lives and can alter their lives, and sometimes in not very, very positive or healthy ways. And it is called emotional healing, or healing from wounds and traumas throughout our life. If anybody has a thought, what would you call, there's no wrong answers here, what would you call emotional healing? What does it mean to you? How would you define it? Any thoughts?
It means like, if you're hurt inside, like, let's say, you were treated wrong, you don't know how to heal yourself. There's always a way. You can ask someone, you can talk to someone to help you make that pain stop and go away.
Thank you, Mark. So basically what I hear you saying is then that emotional healing is when someone wrongs you or hurts you in some way, it hurts inside. There are ways of dealing with it. We're going to talk about that. That's good. But it's a wound from something someone else may do to you. Thank you. Why is emotional healing important? Any thoughts? Why is emotional healing important? Any ideas? Well, emotional healing can cause a lot of problems. The obvious that people first think about is, well, it can cause relational problems. Yeah. Job problems. Yes. Last week, I know we talked about the whole hour was just spent on research project after research project after research project, covering the importance of thankfulness, positive attitude, etc. But I wrote some more research here, and I want to share it with you that ties right in to why emotional healing is important. This is secular research, and it says this: there is much evidence to suggest that repressed anger, hate, resentment, and grief are the root emotional causes leading to the development of cancer. It continues, or it goes on to say, those that hold on to anger and hurt, that means they keep the hurt and anger in their hearts, in their minds, they tend to have poor health, a weakened immune system, and are more prone or likely to have chronic illnesses such as cancer. This is due to the rise in the level of the stress hormone cortisol that suppresses the immune system. So what that means to me is, as the more angry and upset you are, the more your immune system decreases. And the longer you hold on to those angry or hurt feelings, the longer your immune system is lowered. It goes on to say, forgiveness is a way of letting go of the anger and hurt, and ultimately a way of improving your health and immune system functionally. Forgiveness does not mean condoning unkindness. Catch this now. This is a researcher saying this. Forgiveness does not mean condoning unkindness or excusing poor behavior or forcing a reconciliation with the offender. Ultimately, forgiveness should be done because it is good for you. Forgiveness should be done because it is good for you. Like it may save your life. Forgiveness therapy, it continues, involves speaking your truth and letting go of anger and hurt. Forgiving another is an emotionally freeing experience. I'm going to read a couple more excerpts here from this research project. Chronic unforgiveness causes stress every time people think of their transgressor, their body responds. Decreasing your unforgiveness cuts down your health risk. Now, if you can forgive, that can actually strengthen your immune system. According to research done at the Virginia Commonwealth University. Forgiveness could boost the immune system by reducing the production of the stress hormone cortisol at Rockefeller University in New York. Researchers in Ohio State University found that highly stressed women had lower levels of natural killer cells than women who reported less stress. Natural killer cells have an extremely important function with regard to cancer because they are capable of detaching and killing cancer cells. Psychological interventions such as forgiveness have important roles in reducing stress and improving quality of life, but also in extending survival, according to Barbara Anderson, professor of psychology, Ohio State University. And this goes on and on and on and on, but I'm just giving this a little bit. You notice that all of these excerpts that I read to you, that I talked about something that everyone knows about it, they may talk about it, but many people unfortunately do not apply the principle when they need to, and that is called forgiveness. I hope and I think that if people can look at forgiveness from a different perspective, it can change their lives. If they see forgiveness from another perspective they're going to talk about today, it can literally change their lives. And we'll get more to that in a moment. Research has been done on bitterness, resentment, and anger. It has been found that these emotions can play havoc in one's physical state of health, as I just showed you through the research. Unforgiveness can cost you your life literally, as I just explained. And forgiveness can literally save your life. This is where I hope people can see forgiveness from a different perspective. Forgiveness is not excusing. It's not condoning the offenses of others against us, but is choosing to cancel a debt and close the book on them for you. Forgiveness is a strength rather than a weakness. No one thinks of it that way. Well, very few people do. Forgiveness can be seen as a victory rather than defeat. It's breaking free rather than being held captive. I've shared this with people, and I meant it from the depths of my heart. I think I'll always share it. Forgiveness is a strength. It takes courage. Let me share a little more research with you here. When I got a little bit ahead of myself a moment ago, but I want to read this anyway because it's that important. Research findings. Even though I'm repeating myself a little bit, I think it's so important. I'm going to go ahead and read what it has here, or what I wrote here. Anger and heart disease. Research has found that men who get angry quickly under stress are more prone to develop heart disease and have heart attacks at an earlier age. When angry, the body reacts as if it were under attack. There is a rush of adrenaline and your body speeds up, preparing to defend itself. Letting anger out by anger outbursts does not decrease the chances of heart disease, but often leads to more anger. It's kind of like a self-perpetuating cycle. I heard growing up, I got to let the anger out. But how do you let it out? By expressing more anger? It's actually counterproductive, according to the research. Because by talking about it and dwelling on it and exploding, you're feeding the anger itself. rather than trying to deal with it, yes, but in positive, constructive, or proactive ways. Additional consequences of bitterness and unforgiveness, according to research, are sleeplessness, exhaustion, ulcers, circulatory disease I mentioned, anxiety, fear, tension, depression, and as I mentioned a moment ago, greater chance of terminal diseases like cancer. Helpful ways of healing the emotions that go along with unforgiveness are. Now we're going to talk about some of the proactive things that people can do to forgive. Keep in mind, I encourage you strongly, keep in mind that forgiveness is a strength, not a weakness. It's an asset, not a deficit. This is where people, I think, misunderstand forgiveness. They feel that forgiveness is kind of like laying down a mat by saying, "Here, I give you my permission to continue to abuse me." That's not forgiveness. That's maybe victimization, maybe it's enabling, but it's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is refusing to allow yourself to be the other person's prisoner, the other person's captive. Ways of dealing now, positive, proactive ways of dealing with forgiveness, or unforgiveness, helping us to forgive. One we talked about quite a bit, I think, last week, and I don't want to, well, actually, I do want to overstate it. It's so important. Is the attitude, you can't hear me back, please let me know, is the attitude of thankfulness. The attitude of thankfulness. If people can make practice, let me say this real quick, practice when things are going well for you, and when things are not going well for you, it's already a habit. But thankfulness can be like a thought-shifting or a thought-changing exercise. You feel upset, you feel angry, and your feelings come from your thoughts. As you think of things you're upset about, you start feeling angry. If you can shift your thoughts, shift your mind patterns, your thought patterns, the emotions are going to change. So when you start thinking of something you're thankful for, you say, well, this happened, that happened, but I still have this. I can still do that. I still have this. Whatever. I'm thankful for this. And you start focusing on that. You're shifting your mind or your thoughts, and as your thoughts go, so go your emotions. Now, it sounds so easy. It's not that easy, but it's very doable. It's not that easy, but it's very doable. Only one person in the whole universe controls your mind, not you. That's just one tool, but I think it's the most powerful one. Another one is just activity. Enjoyable activity. Last week, I think I shared we were talking about, no, the week before, we were talking about how to reduce stress reduction, and that just being active can distract yourself, putting your energy into something positive or enjoyable, but the same thing with reducing anger, just activity can help you deal with it also. Interacting with people. Quick question. Surprise pop quiz. What type of people do you feel that you should try to make an effort to interact with when you're feeling angry? More people that are angry?
Happy people.
Happy people. Yes. Because, now this is, I'm glad you shared that, because this is interesting. This is human. It's human. When people feel really sad and depressed, despondent, who do they gravitate towards frequently? Other people that feel sad and despondent. But what happens, unfortunately, is they feed on each other. They nurture, or they help feed each other's sadness and depression. It's not helping them get out of it. And it helps to talk to somebody. Yes, but someone who's more encouraging and uplifting is far better. Anger, same thing. Many times when people are human nature, when people are angry, who do they gravitate towards? Other people that are angry, or people that will join in with them and be angry with them. But unfortunately, you're also feeding the anger or the unforgiveness. Another proactive, I guess, step that people can take in being able to forgive and heal emotionally, or experience emotional healing, is, as I mentioned a moment ago, changing their thinking patterns. If you can stop and think, what am I thinking that's making me feel so terrible? People will say, well, I feel terrible because someone said this and that. Outwardly, that's true, but at the same time, it's your thinking, your interpretation, your mindset, your own thoughts that are taking that event and thinking of it in a way, why they do that, it's not fair, it was terrible, I'm never going to get over it, I can't get through this, I can't deal with this, I'll never be the same again. You're feeding the anger, the unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment. If you can catch that, be aware of it, you've just reached first base. Then stop and say, for me, not them, it's not about them, it's about me. How can I reduce my anger, increase my immunity, improve my health, deal with this, be stronger, be stronger. How can I accomplish this? Shifting your thoughts. What I have to be thankful for, what I have to look forward to, what hopes do I have? Depressive or angry thinking patterns, if you take them and replace them with more positive thoughts, it will make a difference. Another thing that is a universal principle, meditation or prayer. Meditation or prayer. In fact, last week I think I touched on literal secular research, the fact that when people use meditation or prayer, it impacted them in some very, very positive ways. Not the least of which is being able to let go of anger and forgiveness. Changing perspective, that's powerful. Changing your perspective is powerful. Looking at things from another way is absolutely powerful. We've all heard this, I've shared it in class before. You can see your cup as being half full or half empty. It's your choice. But another thing you could do is, many times people will be in a crisis of one type or another, and when they're in that crisis, they think of everything they've lost, and they think of the pain the crisis caused. But what they sometimes don't do is, if they can see something positive in a crisis, man, it's better than Prozac. It's better than Prozac. And it's no side effects. And it's free. It's free. Let me stop there. I encourage you, practice doing this with things when things are going great. So when things aren't going so great, it's a habit already. Otherwise, it's really hard. Not impossible, but more difficult, because you've got to really work so hard at doing something that's so unnatural, it doesn't feel comfortable to you, because you never do it. And you're in crisis now. It's hard. I knew a person that was in a serious car accident. Well, I'll share my own testimony. I'll just shift back to me. In 2001, January 29th, I know the date. I have no memory. I just remember it was told to me it was the 29th of January, late at night. I was coming home from church. I got a very serious car accident, and they thought I was dead on the scene. I crushed my right foot, broke my right knee, broke cheekbone, nose, chipped a couple of teeth, has something called traumatic brain injury, or subdermal, excuse me.
No. Subdural.
Okay, I was close. That too, that too. Subdural, it's nice being married to a nurse. Subdural hematoma, thank you. And that's traumatic brain injury. And I had memory problems for a while. It took a while to get back to normal. But say, okay, I can think, well, why did it happen to me? I lost a really good car. Other people one person lost their life in the accident. They thought I was dead. Huge medical bills. I can think of all that and get real depressed and upset. And maybe angry. Angry at fate, the other person involved with the accident, the car, whatever. But I can also think, wow, I am so thankful I'm alive. I am so thankful I'm alive. I'm so thankful as a result of this car accident, I could have so much more compassion and empathy for other people going through crisis. It changed my heart. So I can dwell on that now. See what's happening? I used to have an Uncle Jim used to say, every morning I get up, I thank God for another day of life. You know, saying that to a 16, 17, I mean, whatever I was a young kid. But now, I can say the same thing. Thank God for the day of life. Breath, health, hope. Now it means so much to me because I almost lost it. So you see how I took a tragedy and I've seen positive in it in some way. Changing perspective or reframing your thoughts can change your life, but it does take effort. Another thing is understanding the reasons for another person's actions can be helpful. Knowing the reason is not excusing, but it can be healing. I had somebody one time, I was a friend of mine that I was talking to, and he was deeply hurt by the actions and the words of other people. And eventually was able to see that it wasn't him. That the reason why they were acting so negatively or expressing so much anger toward him had nothing to do with him. Other people had other issues that they were dealing with. He just happened to be in the way at the wrong time. When he began to see the reason behind their behavior, it helped him also. That's another perspective. Sharing with someone that you can trust. Being listened to by someone who cares can be incredibly healing. It's hard to find sometimes. You can trust them, they can understand, but encourage you. That is difficult. But if someone like that can be found, it's invaluable. Any thoughts or questions before I continue? Very, very, very important. You can forgive without enabling or being vulnerable yourself. You can forgive without enabling the other person or being vulnerable. Boundaries, limits, and consequences can be applied or arranged when necessary. Forgiveness is compatible. Forgiveness is compatible. It goes along with, it's in agreement with protecting your own emotional or physical safety. I'll even say personal integrity.
Ron,
Yes, yes, yes.
if someone says or offends you and your work ethic or your ability to produce or your let's say it's at work and someone accuses you of doing something inferior and you're offended by it, and so you you try to prove to them rather than forgive them for proven wrong, which is that defense mechanism we're talking about. But how do you draw the line between correcting an error you might have made or overcoming some of your own inadequacies when someone's actually right in their accusation, but emotionally hurt you. I mean,
Let me see if I understand. Yeah, thank you. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Let's say someone corrects you, whatever, and actually what they correct or criticize whatever, and they're correct in what they're pinpointing, but you still feel hurt or offended.
Right.
So how do you deal with that? Well, my thought off the top, right off the bat would say, of course you want to correct it. What I might do is think about how thankful I am, or could be, that they found the error, or the mistake, or the weakness. How, because of their reaction, made critical as it may have been, towards me, I will be better at what I do. I'm thankful for that. Not that they were critical about it, or negative, or whatever, or even they exposed it. That may hurt, embarrass, or anger me, but I'm thankful that they did it. And so I'll be better for it. Yeah. That's a good question. I could be really angry at some traffic cops, traffic police. I could be really angry at them. I could hold anger for a lifetime. One time I got a ticket. I never got a ticket. I'm 62. I never got a ticket my whole life. Then it happened. I got a ticket because I made a left on red. Well, I did. Not on purpose. Your mind's somewhere else. The car's moving, you move. Just automatic. Well, I did it in front of a cop, right? A state patrol agent. Now, I wouldn't have done it in front of him if I was going to do it on purpose, you know. He says, I don't believe you did that. Did what? You made a left on red. I did? Okay. I could be angry. Or I could say, wow, I'm glad he was there to catch me, because I'm more careful than I am. And with my history, who knows, it's easy to think, wow, it could save my life. So I dwell on that and figure, wow, I'm thankful. Yeah, I was uncomfortable, I don't like it, my perfect record's ruined, but I'm more careful as a result. You can save my life for somebody else's. So I say, thank you, Lord. Then, the second time, remember, over 40 years, never a single blemish. I'm in a rush to get to work. There's a 35-mile zone out of the first highway that hit when I leave my home, 35-mile-per-hour zone. And I'm going a little fast. He says 48. I don't believe that, but I was going over. Maybe I was. I don't know. Of course, we had radar. I can't really contest that, but I think it was more like less. Anyway, I could be angry at him because he's hiding behind some other cars. You can't see him, real sneaky. And come on, 35-mile-per-hour zone. How many speeders are you going to really serious? You know, my first thought was, does he have like a quote he's got to fill out or something? But then I could think, okay, well, mind shift. It could prevent an accident if I watch the speed. I do now, even higher speeds. I'll watch it now because I remember how vulnerable I am. You go 40 plus years without a traffic accident or citation, you start to get overconfident. You do. Figure, I don't know about other people, but hey, can't touch me. That's a big mistake. As you get careless. So now I watch this speed limit all the time. You know the cars are speeding, I'm not. So I'm trying to get, so it could save my life and the life of someone else, not to mention a whole lot of financial problems with car damage. So again, depends how you want to look at it. Steps toward forgiveness. As we've been talking about, acknowledge your own inner painful or emotional wounds, your emotional feelings. You can be proactive. You can have a plan of action on how to prevent it from the future, how to set up consequences, limitations, and boundaries, and carry those out as a plan of action. In other words, protect yourself from further victimization if that's the case, or abuse. Here's something that's real important, real important, real important. I'm going to share with you maybe the biggest stumbling block to people being able to forgive the offenses of others. They oftentimes first need to, for whatever reason, need to learn to forgive themselves. If people have something towards themselves that's not forgiven, then the mechanism of forgiving others is just going to be really lopsided. It's going to be hard. For big offenses, probably totally impossible. With or without a strong spiritual faith, because you've got to forgive yourself. Many people, I frequently see people who, they hit that wall, but behind it is something about themselves they haven't forgiven. And so without forgiving themselves, they aren't able to forgive someone else. It can be a major stumbling block. So that's when you see that, you're aware of that, just take it to your Creator and address it and start working on forgiving yourself. So in a sense, forgiveness is canceling a debt and closing the book against someone else. That's one way of explaining it. But somebody should first do it, cancel that, and close the book against yourself. Forgive yourself. This may be one of the most hidden and invisible factors that prevents emotional healing, as I mentioned. If feasible or possible, express or write down your forgiveness to the other person, maybe yourself too, if that's necessary. If appropriate, you can deliver it to that person. In other words, if you have trouble forgiving a person, it's a technique you can use. Writing a letter to them, stating you forgive them. If it's appropriate and feasible, you can deliver it to them. But it's not always possible and realistic, I know that. But it is a tool. But action on your unforgiveness is part of the healing. This has always kind of amazed me. And it shouldn't. It's actually quite scriptural, but still amazes me. There are times where I've held a lot of anger and unforgiveness towards somebody, but I did something actually, this is not a scriptural, but aside from that, it's also goes along with secular therapy called behavioral therapy, behavior modification. Is this: you may feel this way, but nevertheless, you act this way. Folks, it sounds crazy, but it's powerful. It sounds crazy, but it's powerful. You feel this way, but you act this way. Why? Hypocrite? No. When you feel this way, angry, upset, you want to kill the guy. But here, you act like he's great. You admire him. You love him. Maybe not too far, but at least positive, right? Positive. Shake his hand, say hello, whatever. You do that long enough, this is what frequently begins to happen. You start to feel the way you're acting. Now, I can't explain it totally because I'm not going to tell you I totally mastered the human brain. Nobody has. That will always be the last frontier we'll never totally understand as human beings, as our own mind. But we've already talked about her thoughts causing our feelings. That is a fact. But also our behavior also causes our feelings a certain way.
Brian,
Yes.
can you explain how someone will go to someone and tell them that they forgive them, but that person doesn't feel that they've done anything to be forgiven for, or doesn't accept that forgiveness? Sometimes that's hard on people too. They don't they don't realize that forgiveness is really not for the other person, but it's actually for their own self.
It is hard. It is very, very, very hard. I just realized I'm on tape and I'm picking up my coffee. I'll have to edit this. That's a very good question, honey. That's extremely, it happens frequently. My thought on that is this. Forgiveness is not about them. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for them, it's for you. It's to help them, help you, not them. Sometimes if I ask somebody forgiveness, it's for my own conscience or to help me feel that I've done my part. I've done all that I can do. After that is over. I'm canceled and closing the book if I did my part. It's nice if they would accept it, but it'd be helpful, certainly. But if not, I did everything I could in the most realistic way possible to simply do my part to try to make amends, if that's the case, or at least create peace. But I could do no more. The rest is up to them. But I've done my part. And so
It's sort of like you've said before, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
yes, it is. Yeah. I use it sometimes in counseling. I like visuals. If someone is offensive to me, they've hurt me, they've upset me, they've really hurt me, really upset me, and I have all this anger, and I am upset, I'm irritated, more than irritated. This is what's happening. What does this chain mean? This chain is not their offense. This chain is not their actions against me or their words against me. These chains are mine. Because I'm the only one that's bound with my anger. I'm the only one that's bound with my resentment and bitterness, fear, whatever. I'm the only one that's bound with this. And because they're my chains, I'm the only one that's bound myself. Only I can break it. It also goes back to that there can be chains of unforgiveness towards yourself as well as chains of your anger towards others that hurt you as well. So how do I break these darn chains? Perspective. Choosing to refuse to be anybody's prisoner. I refuse to be anybody's slave and prisoner. I refuse to be anyone's victim. God doesn't want me to be, so why should I choose to be? I refuse. Therefore, I want to be free from them. I want to break the chains that have been placed on me through their actions, but I placed them on myself because I held on to the feelings. I refuse it. I'm going to let go of the anger, resentment for me, not them. I refuse to be anybody's victim or slave. I refuse. They can just take these chains back. If they got anger, resentment, fine, but I'll take no part of it. So it's an attitude, their perspective, and it's incredibly freeing and healing. Do you kind of see a little more now what I mean when I say that forgiveness is a strength and not a weakness?
Mm-hmm.
It's a process of choosing to be free rather than bound. It really is. But with that perspective, people can totally use it so much more effectively in their lives than they frequently do. So what forgiveness is not? What forgiveness is not? It's not forgetting this, really, because think about it for a minute. They say we should forgive and forget. It's a nice cliche, but really, if that were the case, a lot of areas of my life would be totally blocked out. I will remember this time, would remember that time. Be full of holes, which is going to happen. It's not they're forgetting, it's you don't dwell on it. Or, if it comes back, and it will, okay, what positive things can I think of as a result of it? How did it help me in some way? Powerful. Forgiveness, very important. Forgiveness is not giving permission to continue to allow hurtful behaviors toward you. Forgiveness is not allowing somebody to continue to hurt, wound you, or offend you. That is not forgiveness. Actually, that's more enabling, or allowing yourself to continue to be victimized, or someone's punching bag. You don't have to permit that or allow that. It is not condoning past behaviors. And I mentioned earlier, I'll mention again, forgiveness is not always reconciliatory. My wife shared I had a really good question there about what if you want to ask for their forgiveness and you really hope for your own benefit, I guess, maybe for theirs too, that they'll accept it and maybe ask for forgiveness for them, and they don't. Forgiveness is not reconciliatory. Maybe you don't have to reconcile, but you're right to be free. The changes they place on you in a sense because of their actions. Any thoughts or questions before we continue on? Anything at all? Forgiveness is an accomplishment and a victory that can have a resounding impact on one's life, and oftentimes of that on significant others as well. This is my perspective, but based on a whole lot of research that's been done, reading, and experience as well, professional and personal. Love is one of the most powerful forces on earth, rivaled only by faith. Love can transform lives, and faith can move mountains in people's lives. So love and faith are both very, very, very important. I'm going to close with this real quick. I found a serenity prayer. Serenity prayer is used by various organizations. And often the serenity prayer is used by organizations where they have to forgive themselves, big time, themselves, as well as others. And in the serenity prayer says this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I'm going to close with that. Any last questions or thoughts before we close? I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Thank you very much. And next we're going to be covering a different topic, but it will be very interesting and enjoyable. Everybody's welcome. Please invite somebody. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week. Oh, anybody stay back? I'll stay back for any questions or prayer if anybody would like me to. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you. Oh, P.S.